The Mosin-Nagant M189-130 was the backbone of the Red Army during World War II and one of the most produced military rifles in history. Originally designed in the late 19th century, this bolt-action rifle proved that simplicity, durability, and raw power could still dominate a modern battlefield. By the time Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa in 1941, millions of Mosin-Nagant rifles were already in Soviet arsenals, chambered in the powerful 7.62 x /4 mm. Our cartridge, the rifle delivered excellent penetration, long-range accuracy, and devastating stopping power. Even against advancing German infantry equipped with semi-automatic weapons, the Mosin-Nagant held its ground. The rifle's design was intentionally rugged. It could function in mud, snow, freezing rain, and extreme cold, conditions that destroyed more delicate firearms. Soviet soldiers often joked that the rifle could still fire even after being buried in snow overnight. This reliability made it ideal for the harsh Eastern Front. The M189-130 variant featured improved sights, a shorter barrel compared to earlier models, and simplified manufacturing processes. Factories in Izhevsk and Tula worked around the clock, producing rifles at an incredible pace. Speed mattered more than polish. Tool marks were common, but functionality was never compromised. One of the rifle's most famous roles was as a sniper platform. Equipped with PU scopes, Mosin-Nagants became deadly precision weapons in the hands of skilled marksmen. Soviet snipers used camouflage, patience, and terrain mastery to devastating effect, turning the rifle into a psychological weapon as much as a physical one. The Mosin-Nagant also accepted a long cruciform bayonet, emphasizing Soviet doctrine that expected close-quarters combat. Infantry charges, urban fighting, and trench assaults all relied on the rifle's versatility. By the end of the war, over 17 million Mosin-Nagant rifles had been produced. It symbolized Soviet resistance, sacrifice, and endurance. Even today, the rifle remains a global icon of World War II and a testament to the Red Army's ability to fight under the harshest conditions imaginable. The PP-41 was not just a weapon, it was a symbol of Soviet mass production and aggressive infantry tactics during World War II. Designed in 1941, this submachine gun became one of the most recognizable firearms of the Eastern Front, firing the same 7.62 x 25 mm Tokarev cartridge as earlier Soviet SMGs. The PP-41 delivered an extremely high rate of fire, around 900 rounds per minute. In close-quarters combat, especially in urban battles and forests, this firepower was overwhelming. One of its defining features was the 71-round drum magazine, allowing soldiers to fire long bursts without reloading. Later, box magazines simplified logistics, but the drum magazine became iconic. German soldiers feared the sound of PP fire, often mistaking it for multiple weapons firing at once. The PP-41 was designed for speed and simplicity in production. Stamped steel components replaced complex machining, allowing factories, including converted civilian workshops, to produce weapons rapidly. Millions were manufactured in just a few years. The weapon excelled in brutal environments. Snow, mud, and debris rarely stopped it from functioning. This made it perfect for Soviet tactics emphasizing relentless assault and close-range dominance. Captured PP-41s were widely used by German forces, who even rechambered some to fire 9mm ammunition. This alone speaks volumes about the weapon's effectiveness, from the streets of Stalingrad to the forests of Belarus. The PP-41 defined Soviet infantry combat. It was loud, fast, crude, and deadly. Exactly what the Red Army needed during its darkest hours. The success of the legendary T-34 tank depended heavily on its main armament, the 76.2 mm F-34 tank gun. This weapon gave the Red Army a decisive edge during the early and middle years of World War II. When introduced, the F-34 could penetrate most German armor at typical combat ranges. Combined with the T-34's sloped armor and mobility, it created a battlefield shock that German forces were unprepared for in 1941. The gun fired armor-piercing and high-explosive shells, allowing it to engage tanks, fortifications, and infantry positions alike. Soviet crews valued its reliability and straightforward operation under combat stress. Production efficiency was critical. The F-34 was designed to be simple to manufacture and easy to maintain. This allowed damaged tanks to return to battle quickly, supporting Soviet doctrine of sustained armored pressure. Although later German tanks eventually outmatched it, the F-34 remained effective through sheer numbers and tactical use. Massed formations of T-34s could overwhelm even technically superior opponents. The gun played a decisive role in major battles, such as Moscow, Kursk, and the long advance westward. It was not perfect, but it was available, reliable, and deadly in trained hands. The F-34 represents Soviet wartime philosophy: practical design, mass production, and relentless use until victory was achieved. The DP-27 light machine gun was the primary squad-level automatic weapon of the Red Army during World War II. Simple, reliable, and easy to manufacture, it provided essential fire support for advancing Soviet infantry. Chambered in 7.62 x 5.4 R, the DP-27 used a distinctive top-mounted pan magazine holding 47 rounds. While unconventional, this design kept dirt out of the feeding system and functioned well in harsh conditions. The weapon was air-cooled and fired from an open bolt, helping prevent overheating during sustained fire. Its moderate rate of fire made it controllable and effective for suppressive roles. DP-27 gunners were trained to support riflemen during attacks, pinning enemy forces while squads advanced. The weapon became especially important during urban warfare, where controlled automatic fire could dominate streets and building entrances. Although later replaced by improved models, the DP-27 remained in frontline service throughout the war. German troops frequently captured and reused it due to its reliability. The DP-27 may not have been elegant, but it embodied Soviet wartime priorities: function over form, strength over comfort, and reliability above all else. The SVT-40 represented the Soviet Union's ambition to modernize its infantry before and during World War II. Unlike traditional bolt-action rifles, the SVT-40 was a semi-automatic weapon, allowing Soviet soldiers to fire faster and maintain pressure on the enemy without manually cycling the bolt after every shot. Chambered in the powerful 7.62 x 5.4 R cartridge, the SVT-40 offered the same range and penetration as the Mosin Nagant, but with a much higher rate of fire. This made it especially effective in defensive positions and during mobile engagements where quick follow-up shots were critical. The rifle featured a detachable 10-round magazine, though in practice it was often reloaded using stripper clips. Its gas-operated system was advanced for its time, but it required proper maintenance, something not always possible in the chaos of the Eastern Front. Early in the war, many Soviet troops lacked sufficient training to maintain the SVT-40 properly. Mud, ice, and carbon buildup could cause malfunctions if the gas system wasn't adjusted correctly. Because of this, some frontline units preferred the simpler Mosin Nagant. Despite these issues, the SVT-40 was highly respected by enemy forces. German troops frequently captured and reused the rifle, valuing its firepower and accuracy. Sniper variants were also produced, though recoil and scope mounting limitations reduced their effectiveness compared to bolt-action sniper rifles. By mid-war, production of the SVT-40 declined as the Soviet Union focused on cheaper and simpler weapons. Still, the rifle played an important role in early battles and remains a symbol of Soviet innovation under pressure. The Tokarev TT-33 was the standard sidearm of Soviet officers, tank crews, and support troops during World War II. Compact, powerful, and simple, it reflected Soviet design philosophy perfectly. Chambered in 7.62 x 25mm Tokarev, the TT-33 fired a high-velocity round capable of penetrating helmets and light cover. This gave it more stopping power than many contemporary pistols, especially at close range. The pistol's design emphasized simplicity. It had few moving parts, making it easy to manufacture and maintain. This was essential for wartime production, where speed and quantity mattered more than refinement. Unlike many Western pistols, the TT-33 lacked a manual safety, relying instead on half-cock and careful handling. While this raised concerns, it also meant the pistol could be drawn and fired quickly in emergencies. Tank crews valued the TT-33 for its compact size, while officers relied on it as a last resort weapon. It was also widely issued to partisans operating behind enemy lines. Captured Tokarev pistols were used by German forces, particularly on the Eastern Front. Even after the war, the TT-33 influenced pistol designs across Eastern Europe and Asia. Though not glamorous, the TT-33 was dependable, powerful, and perfectly suited to the brutal realities of World War II combat. The Katyusha rocket launcher was one of the most feared Soviet weapons of World War II. Officially designated the BM-13, it delivered overwhelming firepower through massed rocket barrages rather than pinpoint accuracy. Mounted on trucks, the Katyusha could fire dozens of rockets in seconds, saturating enemy positions with explosive force. The psychological impact was immense. German soldiers described the terrifying howl of incoming rockets as a weapon in itself. Unlike traditional artillery, Katyushas emphasized mobility and surprise. Crews would arrive, fire a full salvo, and relocate immediately to avoid counter-battery fire. This shoot-and-scoot tactic made them difficult to destroy. Production was relatively simple, allowing the Soviet Union to field large numbers quickly. Rockets were cheaper and faster to produce than artillery shells, fitting perfectly into Soviet industrial strategy. Though inaccurate individually, Katyushas were devastating when used in mass. They were particularly effective against troop concentrations, supply areas, and defensive lines. From Moscow to Berlin, Katyusha units supported major offensives, softening enemy defenses before infantry and armor assaults. The weapon symbolized Soviet overwhelming firepower and industrial might. The PTRD 4.1 anti-tank rifle was a desperate but effective Soviet response to the German armored invasion of 1941. Designed for speed of production, it was a single-shot, bolt-action weapon firing a massive 14.5 mm cartridge. At close range, the PTRD 4.1 could penetrate early German tank armor, especially side and rear plates. Even when penetration failed, impacts could damage tracks, optics, or injure crews through spalling. The rifle was large, heavy, and punishing to fire. Recoil was severe, and gunners often worked in teams to carry ammunition and protect the shooter. Despite this, thousands of Soviet soldiers relied on it during the critical early years of the war. As German armor improved, the PTRD 4.1 became less effective against tanks, but remained useful against armored vehicles, bunkers, and machine gun nests. Its simplicity allowed mass production under extreme conditions. Along with similar anti-tank rifles, it helped slow German advances when heavier anti-tank weapons were unavailable. The PTRD 4.1 stands as a symbol of Soviet improvisation and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. The Maxim M1910 heavy machine gun was one of the oldest weapons still in frontline Soviet service during World War II, yet it remained one of the most effective. Originally based on Hiram Maxim's late 19th century design, the Soviet version was adapted for extreme durability and long-term defensive fire. The M1910 was chambered in the powerful 7.62 x 5.4 mm cartridge and featured a water-cooled barrel. This allowed it to fire continuously for extended periods without overheating, an enormous advantage in defensive battles. Mounted on the distinctive Sokolov-wheeled carriage, the Maxim could be repositioned by its crew while still offering a stable firing platform. The shield attached to many mounts provided limited protection against small arms fire and shrapnel. The weapon excelled in defensive warfare. During battles such as Leningrad and Moscow, Maxim guns formed the backbone of Soviet defensive lines, cutting down advancing infantry in devastating waves. Though heavy and cumbersome, the Maxim was incredibly reliable. It functioned in freezing temperatures, mud, and snow, conditions that crippled more modern weapons. By World War II standards, it was outdated, but Soviet doctrine valued sustained firepower over mobility. The Maxim's ability to dominate entire sectors of the battlefield ensured its continued use until the war's end. The 45mm M1937 anti-tank gun was one of the Red Army's most important early war anti-armor weapons. Compact, mobile, and relatively easy to conceal, it played a crucial role in slowing German armored advances. Designed to engage light and medium tanks, the gun could penetrate early Panzer models at combat ranges. It fired both armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds, making it versatile against vehicles and infantry alike. Its small size allowed crews to quickly reposition the gun, ambush enemy armor, and withdraw before retaliation. Soviet anti-tank teams often camouflaged the weapon and waited for tanks to approach at close range. As German armor improved, the gun became less effective against frontal armor, but it remained deadly against side armor and support vehicles. It was also frequently used in infantry support roles. The 45mm gun's greatest strength was numbers. Thousands were produced and deployed across the Eastern Front, ensuring that Soviet infantry always had some form of anti-tank capability. Though eventually outclassed, the 45mm M1937 helped buy precious time during the critical years of the war. The Nagant M1895 revolver was already decades old when World War II began, yet it remained in widespread Soviet service. Issued to officers, political commissars, and rear-line troops, it was valued for its reliability and simplicity. Unlike most revolvers, the Nagant used a unique gas seal system that slightly improved velocity and allowed suppressed versions to be used effectively, an unusual feature for the era. Chambered in 7.62 mm Nagant, the revolver was slow to reload but extremely durable. It could function after long periods without maintenance and was resistant to dirt and cold. Although outdated compared to semi-automatic pistols, the Nagant was trusted by many Soviet officers. Its solid construction and consistent performance made it dependable in emergencies. The revolver also saw use with NKVD units and partisan forces. Its intimidating appearance and symbolic authority added to its presence. By modern standards, it was obsolete, but in World War II, reliability often mattered more than firepower, and the Nagant delivered exactly that. The RG-42 hand grenade was one of the most widely used Soviet infantry explosives of World War II. Simple, cheap, and effective, it embodied Soviet mass production philosophy. Unlike pre-war fragmentation grenades, the RG-42 relied on an external fragmentation sleeve or metal casing to create shrapnel. This simplified production while still delivering lethal results. Soviet infantry used the RG-42 in trench assaults, urban combat, and bunker clearing. It was especially effective in close-quarters fighting, where grenades often decided the outcome of engagements. The grenade was easy to use and could be thrown accurately even by minimally trained soldiers. This was critical during the rapid mobilization of millions of troops. RG-42 grenades were also used defensively, thrown into advancing enemy formations or dropped from elevated positions during urban fighting. Though simple, the RG-42 was a deadly tool that played a constant role in Soviet battlefield tactics from 1942 onward.